The quiet did not warn her. It didn't shout or break anything. It slipped in on an ordinary Tuesday evening, the kind Americans forget by Friday. Emily Carter stood in her kitchen in a small Connecticut town. The dishwasher humming like background noise, the sky outside turning orange and gray. She looked at the window and saw herself reflected there, not young, not old, just paused. In that moment, a thought cut through her chest so sharply she had to grip the counter. This can't be all there is. Her husband. Daniel sat on the couch behind her, shoes still on, scrolling through his phone. He laughed at something on the screen, then went quiet again. They had not argued all day. They had not really spoken either. Years ago, silence between them felt safe. Now it felt like distance pretending to be peace. Emily dried her hands and waited for something, anything, to pull her back into the evening. It didn't happen. She remembered when Daniel used to rush home just to tell her small things. A bad meeting. A funny moment on the train. Back then, life felt shared. Now it felt scheduled. Dinners at 7, bills on Sunday. Conversations that stayed shallow because deeper ones felt risky. They went to bed at the same time. Daniel fell asleep fast, the way tired men do. Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned. She listened to his breathing and tried to feel comfort. Instead, she felt trapped by a future that looked exactly like today. She wasn't angry. That scared her most. Weeks passed. Emily focused on work. She stayed later than usual at her office in Hartford, telling herself she was being responsible. In truth, she enjoyed being needed there. At work, her opinions mattered. People looked at her when she spoke. That was where she met Lucas Harper. He worked 2 floors below in marketing. They first spoke in the elevator when it stalled between floors. He made a small joke. She laughed more than the joke deserved. After that, they began running into each other, often coffee lines, meetings, hallway corners. Lucas was easy to talk to. He listened without interrupting. He remembered details. When Emily spoke about her work, he didn't rush her or look bored. He asked questions that showed interest, not obligation. One afternoon, they sat in the break room during a late coffee run. Rain tapped against the windows. The office was quiet. You ever feel like time moves faster than you expect? Lucas asked. Emily smiled, then paused. All the time. He nodded, like he understood more than she had said. Their talks never crossed a line. No touching. No secrets. And yet Emily felt something waking up inside hers, something she thought had gone missing years ago at home. Daniel noticed she was quieter. He asked if work was stressful. She said yes. It wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the truth either. The truth was harder. Emily had begun to notice how much of herself she had folded away to keep life smooth. She used to paint, she used to run, she used to dream about moving somewhere new. Now she planned meals and tracked expenses. She told herself this was adulthood. But some nights the weight of it pressed too hard. One evening, Daniel suggested they watch a show together. Emily agreed. They sat side by side, not touching, both half watching. When Daniel reached for the remote, their hands brushed. It should have felt normal. Instead, it felt unfamiliar. She turned away, pretending to focus on the screen. The next day at work, Lucas walked her to the parking garage as the office emptied. The rain had stopped, but the ground still smelled wet. Their footsteps echoed. "Emily," he said, stopping near her car. "Can I ask you something honest?" She hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes, "Do you ever feel like you're living on pause?" He asked, "Like your life is fine, but it doesn't feel like it's yours anymore." The question hit her without warning. Her throat tightened. "Yes," she said quietly. "I do." They stood there, not touching, not moving. Nothing improper happened. But something changed. Emily felt it clearly. A door inside her had opened, and she didn't know how to close it again. Driving home. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. She told herself to stop thinking about it, to be grateful, to remember her vows. But another voice spoke louder, asking why gratitude felt like a cage. That night, Emily dreamed she was running and couldn't remember why she stopped. She woke before dawn, heart racing. Over the next days, she tried harder at home. She cooked Daniel's favorite meals. She asked about his work. He responded kindly, but his attention drifted. When she spoke about her day, he listened, but not deeply. He didn't ask follow-up questions. He didn't notice when her voice changed. Emily realized something painful. They were both lonely, just in different ways. At work, Lucas noticed her mood shift. He didn't push. He didn't flirt. He stayed respectful. That made everything feel heavier, not lighter. One afternoon, during a short walk outside the building, Emily spoke before she could stop herself. "I'm married," she said, "and I don't know what I'm doing." Lucas stopped walking. He faced her, serious. "Then we slow down," he said. "Nothing matters more than honesty." Relief washed over her, mixed with fear. She had expected pressure. She got space instead. That night, Emily sat alone in her car after parking in her driveway. The house lights were on. Daniel was inside, waiting without knowing he was waiting. She didn't go in right away. She realized she wasn't standing at the edge of temptation. She was standing at the edge of truth. And the truth was simple and terrifying. Married life wasn't enough anymore. Not because Daniel was bad, but because she had disappeared inside it. Emily opened the car door and stepped into the cool night air, knowing that whatever came next would change everything, and the knock she feared most wasn't from anyone else. It was from her own heart. The moment Emily realized she couldn't ignore herself anymore, hit like a sudden winter chill unexpected. Sharp, impossible to ignore. She had spent 11 years in a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. The kind neighbors admired, the kind friends envied. But inside she felt like a shadow, moving through routines without purpose. Daniel, her husband, wasn't cruel. He wasn't distant by choice. He was simply caught in his own life, comfortable in the familiar. And Emily, somewhere along the way, had stopped feeling alive. After weeks of late nights at the office, brief exchanges with Lucas Harper, and evenings staring at her reflection, Emily finally admitted to herself the truth she had been avoiding. She had outgrown the life she was living. She didn't hate her marriage, but she hated the way it made her feel unseen, unnoticed, and quiet. That realization wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was quiet, patient, and relentless. One afternoon, she came home early from work. The autumn sunlight filtering through the living room window, casting long shadows across the floor. Daniel was on the couch flipping through channels. Emily didn't greet him immediately. She just stood there, watching him, listening to the hum of the television. "Everything okay?" Daniel asked finally, looking up. His face was kind, gentle, unaware of the storm behind her calm expression. Emily hesitated, then spoke. "Do you ever wonder if we stopped trying?" Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the tension she had carried for months. Daniel blinked, confusion flickering across his face. "We're fine, aren't we?" he asked almost too quickly. "No," Emily said firmly this time. "I mean, are we really living or just existing? I don't know if I can keep going like this." Daniel sank back into the couch, quiet now, as if the air had shifted. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The weight of her words hung between them. He didn't argue. He didn't dismiss her. For the first time in years, Emily felt the full force of honesty in their home. That night, Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She didn't expect immediate answers or clarity, only that the truth had to exist, even if it was uncomfortable. She remembered Lucas's words from the break room weeks ago. "Whatever you decide, make sure it's honest." Those words echoed a mantra of bravery. Within days, Emily found herself taking the next steps she had been postponing. She found a small apartment by the river, quiet and modest, with enough space to breathe. She didn't tell Daniel immediately. She needed distance, not drama. She needed to rediscover her own rhythm, her own heartbeat. Moving out wasn't a punishment. It wasn't a rebellion. It was reclaiming a part of herself that had been neglected for far too long. Lucas reached out carefully, checking in, never pressing. He didn't flirt. He didn't push. Their conversations stayed light at first, but full of warmth. One evening, Emily found herself at a small riverside cafe, her favorite book in hand, when Lucas arrived. He smiled without expectation. No tension, no hidden agenda, just a quiet acknowledgement of connection. "Hi," he said simply, sliding into the seat across from her. Emily smiled back, feeling a strange calm. She realized then that her attraction to Lucas wasn't about escaping Daniel or her marriage. It was about rediscovering herself, the part of her that had been hidden under years of routine. She had learned to live by other people's schedules, expectations, and comfort zones. Now, for the first time in a long time, she was living for herself. Evenings in her new apartment were quiet, but filled with reflection. She cooked meals she liked, painted again, ran along the riverbank at sunrise. The small apartment wasn't glamorous, but it was alive. Emily began to feel her own heartbeat, the rhythm she hadn't noticed in years. She missed Daniel sometimes, the familiarity of shared life, but she no longer feared being alone. She had discovered that being alone could mean freedom, clarity, and growth. The first time Daniel visited her apartment, it was awkward, slow, and tentative. He had heard she had moved, but didn't know why or what to expect. Emily guided him through the small space, explaining carefully, honestly, without embellishment or blame. Daniel listened, eyes softened with regret and understanding. "I didn't know you felt so invisible," he said quietly. "You weren't cruel," Emily said. "You just didn't see me anymore, and I didn't see myself either." They talked for hours about what they had lost and what they still might have. It was painful, but it was necessary. It was the kind of conversation that could never happen in silence. When Daniel left that night, they hugged, but differently, respectfully, honestly, without expectation. Emily didn't immediately know what the future would bring. She didn't know if she would reconcile, find love elsewhere, or remain independent. But she knew she had taken the first step toward truth, and that made all the difference. Every morning she woke, she felt the city breathing around her. The river flowing past her window, the sun hitting the walls of her apartment in gold and amber. Life felt like it was moving again, not in routines or obligations, but in small, authentic choices she made for herself. Weeks later, Lucas asked if she wanted to meet for coffee. She agreed. They didn't discuss Daniel. They didn't discuss the past. They talked about books, work, dreams, the subtle details of life that often went unnoticed. Emily realized she wasn't looking for love or escape with Lucas. She was looking for companionship, understanding, and the spark of feeling alive. That spark wasn't dependent on anyone else. It was inside her, ignited by her own courage. The day Emily ran into Lucas at the Riverside Cafe again. The autumn leaves drifting across the sidewalk, she felt something new. Anticipation without anxiety. Their eyes met, and there was recognition of history, of connection, of possibility, but no pressure. Emily smiled because she had finally found herself again. She understood that life could still surprise her, still make her heart race, still make her laugh and wonder without compromising her dignity or peace. She didn't need to rush. She didn't need to explain. Emily had learned that choosing to feel alive required patience, honesty, and courage. Her marriage wasn't a failure, and Daniel wasn't a villain. They had simply grown into different chapters of life, and that was okay. What mattered now was her own chapter, her story of self-discovery, awakening, and the quiet thrill of reclaiming joy and purpose. Emily walked along the river that evening, the wind lifting her hair, the lights reflecting on the water like gold sparks. For the first time in years, she felt free, unbound, and fully herself. She had left what was comfortable, safe, predictable, to find a life that challenged her heart, made her feel, and reminded her what it meant to be alive. She knew the future was uncertain, filled with twists, turns, and emotional risks. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had embraced her truth, honored her feelings, and discovered that life, even with heartbreak or change, could be beautiful. And as she watched the sun dip below the horizon, Emily smiled. Whatever came next, whether love, heartbreak, or quiet reflection, she was ready. Because she had found the most important thing, herself. And that, she realized, was the bravest beginning of all.